Hello, Force Box kids. This morning we are drawing a ladybug together. When I was pulling this out of my notebook, I had ripped a piece off, and luckily it didn't impede upon the ladybug, but I have taped it to another piece of paper. I don't know if you've ever done that, but you might notice the rip right here. But yes, we are drawing a cute little ladybug today with graphite, so you will only need your graphite pencil and paper. Let's go over our basic elements of design. We have line, shape, form, value, color, space, and texture. Today we're doing line, shape. We're using our graphite values to create form. We will not be using these below. All right, so let's get started. It's pretty easy to see basic shapes on this little guy. We have primarily circles and circular-like shapes. So let's go ahead and get started with our largest one. We're gonna draw a nice large oval, kind of an egg shape. And however big you want to make it, it's up to you. I've got mine here. And once you settle on your lines, you can darken them a bit. This whole little guy is going to be pretty dark, so any erasing lines are going to be hidden behind the shading. Okay, so then our next one is going to be kind of like a half circle, and it's going to have a little curved bottom, and it's going to sit like a little hat at the top of our oval. Okay, and then from here I'm going to create a cone shape, or it's up to you how tall you want to make it, or if it's just a more of a half circle. Now, one of the principles of design that we have not introduced yet is symmetry. And with our ladybug, symmetry means equal on two sides. If we are going to draw a line down the middle, our ladybug, we are going to attempt to make it as symmetrical as possible, as if this were a mirror line, and on the left and the right, it were even. So keep that in mind as you're drawing. Nothing needs to be perfect, but I might even make this side a little bit bigger to try to create that symmetry, okay? And then we're going to have another little hat sitting on top of this hat. We're going to have subsequently smaller little hats, where this one's going to start with more of a rounder, going in an opposite direction, kind of like the top of our egg shape. And then it's going to come upward and have that curving here, okay? And then finally, and you know what, I might make this a little bit taller. I'll erase that other line when we erase. We have another little hat just sitting on top. And this is only just going to be a curved line. Okay? And I will bring this close for you to see. And I'll make them much darker as I go through. I'm going to okay. And then if you are satisfied with these shapes, we're going to go ahead and erase the lines that should be hidden. Our previous shape lines that intersect with the other shapes now. We want each shape to be nice and clean with no penetrating lines. And we're going to try to see and take a look and see if we put a pencil here, is it somewhat symmetrical? And I would say yes, I'm very happy with that. We have done all of the basic elements or the basic shapes of our ladybug. Now we're going to go in and create these inner shapes. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create two little circles on the left and right of this hat that's second from the top. Okay, and they're going to be kind of like sideways ovals. And you just want them to be somewhat even with each other on the left and right, okay? And then now below this, we have these two shapes. And this one is going to start at the base of this one, come down, and out to the side, just like that. Down and out to the side. Okay? Now, going down to the main body, we're going to draw a dividing line all the way down the middle. You can use a ruler if you need. And here I can see this side's a little smaller. So I might work and increase this one a little bit so that it looks more symmetrical. Make any adjustments as you go. That looks a little better. Okay, so now we're going to start with this guy, and it's kind of like a triangle but curved. So it's got a point, and we're going to come out, and then we're going to make all the rest of our lines curved. And this one we're going to try to make even on the left and the right. Symmetry is a big challenge. So if you're doing a lot of erasing, you are normal. That is very normal. Symmetry is one of the biggest challenges in art, especially when you're using your graphite pencil. Okay, and then we're going to now move to these circles. They're kind of ovals tilted outward. I'm going to create one here and one here. And then I'm going to move to these. These are kind of like triangles. And again, do as much erasing as you think you need. That does not look pretty symmetrical. It's a little better. Okay, and then we have two circles down here. We're going to have one here. And you can make your dots wherever you want. The goal is just to try to make them even on the left and the right. Okay, so down here we are going to draw a line on this side, and then we're going to try to match it on the other. Okay, and this is going to eventually get shaded in black. Now we're just going to add in the basic lines of our legs in our antennae. So we've got one here, and actually they're sitting at the top here. 1, 2, and these are just the basic lines. We're not shading them in yet. And we're just trying to match them left and right. Got some arms. We're going to call these arms. And then our legs here. Okay, we are done with our basic body. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start our shading process. And this is, we're going to create our values, and at the very end, we're going to create our form. We're going to start with the blackest black first, and then we're going to finish from there. So we're going to start at the top and work our way down. This top one is completely black, and the second from the top is completely black except for these white circles. So let's go ahead and shade those in nice and dark. I'm tilting my paper so it's easier for me. And you push hard here. Just bear in mind, sometimes when you push hard, you make lines that are accidental, and they're a little bit harder to erase when you're working, trying to go around the outer edges. So you want to make smaller strokes around the outer edges, and then also around these white sections. So ladybugs are black, red, and they actually have some white spots, which was new to me as I observed the ladybugs. I thought they were only red and black. Okay, so I finished this top hat section, and I actually made this side bigger on accident. So I'm going to go ahead and match it over here and make my adjustments. And you might find yourself doing the same thing as we make our way through this ladybug. Okay, so now I'm going to shade this part in all black, except for these two side areas, which should be white. I'll move my paper as much as I need. I like making strokes towards my body and away. It's a lot harder for me to make side-to-side strokes. And as I get to the edges, I'm going to make smaller strokes. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shade in all of my spots. And I will shade these in and come right back. Okay, I am back. I've shaded in my dark circles and spots on my ladybug. And then last, I'm going to shade in this little triangle section at the bottom where the wings separate at the back. We are actually almost done. This is a fast little guy. All right. So now what we're going to do before we go in with our shading of what will be the red, but in a shade of gray, we're going to go in and update the details of our legs. So we have a little bit of a teardrop at the end of the antennae. So we're going to create a little bit of a teardrop at the end and then go over it with a little bit more of a line to thicken it up a little bit. Almost looks like a Q-tip. Okay? And then for these guys, we have two little joints. It gets thick at the arm. Let's call it the shoulder. We're going to thicken that up. And then it almost has like a bicep. Thickens up there. And we'll just darken that. So you see we added a few joints just by adding a little bit. So I'm going to double edge this one. And then I'm going to create it a little bit thicker here. And then just thicken the edge line. Okay, so here he's got actually quite a big arm here. So we're going to create a line right below and attach it. And I'm going to shade that in. And then I'm just going to add a little curve on the end. Okay, so I'm going to thicken this one up. And then I'm going to add a little curve on the end. And then the same thing. We're going to add a thick, let's call this a thigh. And I've already started shading a little bit. And then thicken the foot and add a little curve on it. And then here, thicken the leg. Okay, now we're all set. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to shade in the main body part. And the red actually is quite dark when you translate it to gray. So we're going to shade in a pretty dark layer of gray over the body. We're going to leave these two, and we actually didn't create these. We're going to use a line just to create two extra triangles here. These are going to stay white too, okay? So 2, 4, 6 spaces stay white. The rest of this body is going to be dark. I'm going to move my hand back a little bit to make longer strokes. And I'm just going to go in. I'm going to use my pressure. And I'm going to start shading it in a nice dark gray. And now you'll notice it blends with your spots a little bit. We don't quite get black with our spots no matter how much pressure we use, and that is okay that your spots are not as vibrant and they don't stand out as much. That is just fine. Just giving it a solid coat, kind of like paint, of gray. And when we're done with that, we are going to, my paper had a little bit of an impression. It pushed down, and so now it has like some bumps. So the pencil was bouncing over the bumps there, and it created a little bit of a different color pattern. And that's just fine. Now I'm going to go around my circles because I can tell they've created those little bumps and try to even it out. Okay, now I'm going to do the same on this side. And we're going to try to match our sides now, create that symmetry. I'm going to darken this line so that this stays nice and black, and we can see that. You can go in all different directions, but the goal is to create kind of a constant color, almost like a coat of paint. Okay, now we are almost done. You'll notice this looks really flat. This one has some form. So now we're gonna focus on our form. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go around with a dark line on one half, okay? Almost creating an outline. And then we're gonna start shading. We're gonna create that gradual shade from a dark, and we're gonna release the pressure and make it lighter. So we have like a fade from dark to light, and we're gonna create that from the edge inward. And we're gonna try to make it even all the way around. So I'm gonna start here, and I'm gonna lighten it up. And smooth it out. And this is really gonna make our ladybug pop off the page. If your pencil is dull, this is harder to do. So go ahead and check your pencil. See if you need to sharpen it. And we're making our ladybug, adding some 3D now, some depth to try to make it pop off the page. And my last mistakes around here are kind of getting hidden now in the form, which is really great. And I'm just going to try to get it all to fade into the middle. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to flip it over, create this dark outline. And now I'm going to fade it inward. And the darkest black we're gonna get with our little guy here is a dark gray. If you wanted to create this whole thing with a black color pencil, you would have a whole nother layer or level of darkness to play with. That might be a fun project to do after this. Compare the two together. So you can see our ladybug is now starting to feel 3D. Now it doesn't feel super 3D, and it's because these white layers that we have are completely white. We need to add some form to the white areas now, okay? So a little bit is gonna go a long way. Let's look at this. You can see how I added a little bit of shading around the edges, and that is really gonna change up our ladybug. Let's start with the biggest one. I'm not gonna add that black layer. We already have a line here, or that black line. This is dark enough. I'm gonna start, now your hand has to be a lot lighter here. Here we got to start heavy. Now we're gonna start light because we're working on white. It's gonna have a much bigger impression. So I'm just starting light, and I'm gonna fade out really fast. And I'm starting light, and I'm gonna fade out. That little bit created some shading. Now even in here, I'm gonna shade a little bit on the outside, and a little bit here. And I'll let you look up close. Now, our ladybug is complete. Great job, everyone. Go ahead and sign with your signature or your initials. And I hope you enjoyed this ladybug. I hope you have a wonderful week. Enjoy this warm weather, and I will see you next time.